you clip the good stuff, the good bits off
And that's
air.
a good bit right there because we're starting. And
We're
we're live
I
back.
mean,
now.
We're always live, even though we're not live because it's pre-taped.
live pow.
We got Brandon back again, talking about Michael
Yo,
Jordan doc. The second to last week, we got one more week after this of the Jordan documentary. And I
And then
mean,
nothing. No
yeah,
sports after this.
well, yeah. I mean, the Taker thing will kind of like fill a small gap, but it won't fill as a small or as big of a gap as it will, or as this Jordan documentary is, because I feel like this is really like they were gonna wait for this. I think like later this year we were supposed to get this or whatever, and they moved it up. And I mean, I'm just glad that they, did move it up because it's given everyone something to do and it's giving everybody hope, while they're waiting to figure out what sports are going on and whatnot. So yeah, we got episode 7 and we got episode 8, and then next week obviously 9 and 10. What'd you guys think about these episodes this week?
I thought it was.
go ahead, Justin.
I learned a lot about Michael Jordan in basketball. I learned about like his take on his father dying, which was like really interesting because I didn't really know much about it.
I didn't know that story at all.
Um, like why he left. He's just like pretty much done with this. Like the media pretty much drove him out, and just like the chaos. Episode 7 was pretty much chaos.
I honestly, like, I knew that everyone kept saying like he left because like his dad, but I just didn't know what exactly went down. Like, well, like with his dad dying, I thought it was just like, oh, his dad died, but I didn't realize how like crazy it was. And when they explained like the details, I was like, oh my god, like, I mean, no wonder why he was kind of messed up. And then when they mentioned like someone, people were saying that it might have been like because of the gambling. I put my tinfoil cap on for a second. I was like, I don't know, like it's possible.
I mean, these were probably my two favorite episodes. When you talk about that, the one thing that it doesn't make sense. Like I've always thought theories of why he left. Um, why he retired that first time. And they even mentioned it, which was surprising. They mentioned that people had thought it was a secret suspension or whatnot.
Hmm.
I know some people were saying that, and I think they mentioned this also in the documentary, how his father's death, where he got killed by these two pretty much crackheads, honestly, um, how it was tied to him and his gambling, and that never sat right with me, like it was a possibility, just because Jordan, who's like worth all of this money, like if it really came down to if someone was like, pay us our, your gambling debts or whatever, or we're gonna do something to your family, I don't think that he would just not do anything, like
Hmm.
that doesn't make too much sense at all. So, when they brought that up, and people were just saying it was BS and everything, and that's definitely something I believe for sure. But yeah, I mean, it was still interesting to see them bring all that up, and of course, his first retirement and everything. And the main thing that I got out of these two episodes, even though you know it, but just the fact that they showed just how, I won't call him nuts. He's definitely not nuts, but just how determined he was with being like the best at basketball. And of course, he wanted the best out of his teammates because, if he was going to give all his all, then he wanted his teammates to do the same. And just to see his like competitive drive on camera and just like in practices and everything. And again, we've read and heard about these, famed practices that he had, but just being able to see that footage is definitely eye opening for sure.
I mean, the fact that he made up like stories in his head so he can like be competitive and go crazy, about the guy getting I
Oh,
forgot
the
what his
Bradford
name was.
Smith.
Yeah, like he, I mean, put up like what 37 or 32 or whatever, and then like Michael Jordan is like, I mean, he said like good game, Mike, and then he turned that into going out to beating him like crazy the next day, and that never happened. So it's like just the little things like that. I mean, I mean, he's like a competitive crazy person, and like that is like one of the things where it's like, I mean, if you are like, I don't know, I was just like shocked by that because I was like, to make up something like that just so you can like go crazy on the court is just wild. Like, it just
It just
shows
seemed
what
like
kind
he
of
needed
person
he
he
needed
is.
a challenge is the main thing.
Yeah.
That's the one thing that's kind of been brought up this whole series, is that he just always looking for a new challenge. Like he was saying later on in the doc, they were saying like Mike was just so tired after that second championship. He said that if he didn't have the Olympics, that he would have quit. But also the fact that Magic Johnson and all these guys had never won 3 straight titles, so
Mm-hmm.
because of that, that was his challenge to stay in the league. But he said if that wasn't the case, he would have already retired. It's just somebody who's always looking for some type of challenge. So I got to the point where if he had to make something up in his head, I guess it helped him out.
For
I like
sure.
how I was saying, gonna say like during his baseball, like, isn't it? You think Michael Jordan would have stayed in baseball if they didn't have that suspension? Because I thought he just left. I didn't know there was a suspension. Also, I guarantee you, Michael Jordan was betting against those Bulls games, so they were losing. Like,
Mm.
imagine like the Bulls won the championship when he wasn't there. It would be like,
Right.
oh, we could win without Jordan. Like, I know
Yeah.
like the first year they made it to the conference, but like they like barely made it into the playoffs the second year, and I didn't even know he came back. Like, I thought he came back like from a
Oh, you
brand new
didn't know he came
season.
back
I
in the middle
didn't
of the season.
I didn't know that he came back like in the last couple of games of the season to go into the playoffs.
Yeah, he played 17 games that season. I remember it was huge, absolutely huge when he came back, and he had that game against Indiana, which I definitely watched, and I think they dropped like their first 2 games or whatever. Then they beat like the Hawks, but the main thing was that that game he had when he came back to the Garden, and the 55 points, everyone calls it the double nickel. He had that game. It was just like, okay, yeah, he's definitely back for sure. But yeah, it was very interesting to see him come back in the middle of the season. Obviously, as a kid, we just enjoyed it for sure. But just looking back at it now, it's just like, why would you come back in the middle of the season? Why won't you just come back the next season? But I guess it's just Jordan.
And I mean, Justin, you kind of mentioned like the baseball thing, like that was cool to see. Obviously, because like I like me like being born when I was and like growing up at the time when I was like it was after all of this, so just like hearing the fact that Jordan played for the White Sox, that was like a big thing where I was like, oh, like that's my team, like the greatest basketball player ever who played for the Chicago Bulls, played for the Chicago White Sox, like it was so cool. But I never really like got into like the fact that you know there was a strike going on in baseball, and that's why he probably jumped back to basketball. Because I mean, they were saying like if he continued in baseball, who knows what would have happened? He could have been like this great baseball player, and because like it's kind of like we won't have that because of he just like didn't like stick with it after the fact. Like he just kind of took that strike as an opportunity to go back to basketball. We won't like see what it could have been, but I mean, I definitely think like he picked the right choice going back to basketball. Like you said,
Definitely
obviously
so.
maybe wait for the next season, but obviously everything like plays together, and the number 45, him coming back for a couple games like with the 45, and then you know basically saying like, well, 45 ain't 23, and then like, well, that's all it needed to take. Like it just shows how crazy of a person he is.
I
Yeah,
was
that
gonna
was.
say,
Oh, go ahead, Justin.
oh my bad. I was gonna say, okay, if Jordan doesn't, if the Bulls win the championship and the strike happens, does Jordan go back to the Bulls, or does he go to a different team and win a different championship somewhere else to prove a
It's a good
point?
question. Um,
Because I was thinking if they won a championship, I think he goes to like the Knicks or something because he loves MSG so much.
I mean, there was always rumors that he was going to play for the Knicks. I
Okay.
don't know what point in his career that was, but I remember the rumors were always that he would play for the Knicks. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's a very good question. I have no idea um, what they would have done because that would have definitely been a new challenge. Like the team won without me. Let me see if I can beat them with whomever he went with. Um, I'm actually just glad that never happened though because I'm glad he
Mm.
stayed on the Bulls because we
And
we
I
definitely
and
got
I
some classic series out of that.
I definitely think he would definitely stay in the East just for like like competition.
Yeah, because the East was definitely tougher then. I mean, you saw the rise of the Magic. That was, I think I mentioned this before. That was my first team when I first started watching basketball, and when they beat them in '95, it was just such a huge deal. Especially like just beating Jordan, even though he just came back, still beating Jordan was just a huge deal. And then they kind of show throughout the that one episode how he was just like hell bent on like making it back to the playoffs, but not only that, just facing the Magic, and then of course they swept them the next year. But yeah, I mean, like I said, it'd have been interesting just to see where he would have went if the Bulls had ended up winning. But like you said, maybe the East, just because there was a lot of competition in the East at the time. But it definitely would have been weird to see him in any other jersey.
I'm trying to think because like how are they going to like kind of end this documentary? Like are they going to end it with like the, 1998 team winning the championship? And like I know that they're supposed to like the timelines are supposed to meet up in these last two episodes, but like
We're pretty
are they
much
going to
met.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely heading there. I mean, like
hmm
the '97 season is the only thing left. Well, '97 and '98. They teased the Eastern Conference Finals against the Pacers with Reggie Miller. They teased that at the end of the episode, which was probably like their toughest. I mean, I think they won 7 games that series, so it'd be like the toughest series that year. But eventually, I would think like by like the end of next episode, episode 9, everything will meet up, and you just kind of have like that last year and everything that kind of goes into winning that last championship.
So we're not going to get like a Wizards part
No,
after that.
they might mention it, like in the last episode. They might just mention, hey, he came back. Like, oh, like Scottie Pippen went to the Rockets, and then he went to the Blazers, and then Steve Kerr ended up on the Spurs and won a bunch of championships there. And they'll probably mention like stuff like that, and of course they'll bring up Jordan. But I don't think they're going to talk too much about it. We try not to discuss those years.
No,
Seems to be the
honestly.
Tom Brady years in the next season, but
Yeah.
we'll see.
But it was also cool, like they had the little deal with, once Jordan retired in '93, how, the team became Pippen's team. And like '94, '95, they were still pretty good. I mean, like you said, they made the Eastern Conference Finals. They came up short, but it was really cool of them to dive in on that game against the Knicks where Pippen wouldn't come into the game, and then Kukoc
Oh
hit that
yeah.
game winner. Yeah, that was just really interesting. I've seen a lot of people kind of talk crap about Pippen, and I mean, I could definitely understand that, especially during that time period. But then you got to put yourself in his shoes. Like, this is a dude who's making $35 every single game, and he's having to go out there to be the leader of this team. Like, I would be upset too. So,
Yeah.
kind of, yeah. I mean, in the moment, yeah, you probably shouldn't have quit in your team. There's probably a better way you can do that. But how can you blame the guy? What did you guys think about? Because I don't know if you know about it. Like they talked about, of course, when Jordan that summer of '95, going into the '96 season, get himself ready for the basketball season. And they bring up Space Jam. Did you guys know
hmm
about the Jordan Dome?
No.
No, I didn't know that they built a specific place just for Michael Jordan. I forgot about Space Jam altogether. Yeah, I didn't know. I didn't know that was like the catalyst of like pretty much him coming back, wasn't it? Really?
Yeah, that was one thing. One of I forget the name. One of the Michael Jordan VHS tapes I had, I think it was called Above and Beyond. They did like a little segment on that where he talked about, him filming Space Jam. I don't even think they actually mentioned Space Jam. It might have been like a copyright thing, but they would just say,
hmm
hey, like he was filming this movie and they built like this whole facility and he talked about, having guys come in at nighttime and they would do like pickup games and everything. So it was really cool to see them to talk about that, here. Because that's honestly, just kind of going off topic here, that's probably what they're going to end up doing with like the NBA season. Like they have to finish. They're going to have like those, those type of facilities where you can go in there. It's just the players, not a whole lot going on there, and you can be able to play your game. That type of thing is what they're going to probably bring for the rest of the season here. But again, it was still cool to see them bring that up because that famed Jordan Dome, like I said, that's something I've known about for years. So it's cool other people can kind of find out about it.
And something with that is like, I was just trying to think like when they were talking about that, and it's good that you bring it up because I totally forgot about that in Space Jam. But I mean, seeing all those players, like the different players from the different teams coming together, like, basically to help Jordan get back to, like he said,
Right.
like learn about all the players and like, learn about like, the league pretty much. And it made me think like, would that be able to happen today, like with social media and stuff? Like,
Oh yeah.
you think so?
Oh yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
just a bunch
yeah.
of
I mean,
players?
there's guys. What's the gym? Because also the NBA players, all of them, pretty much, I would probably say 70, 80% probably live in Los Angeles during the off season.
hmm
So they're always in like LA Fitness or wherever doing pickup games, and that stuff leaks. I mean, people just sit there and record it, and you'll see like LeBron and Carmelo and Harden and all these guys playing together on there. So it's definitely something that happens on there. That's why it's interesting to see back then because I didn't feel like that would ever happen on there. Obviously,
Yeah.
things are different. Social media, the stuff is out there a little bit easier. Like back then, things were a little bit more private. But again, like you said, these people were coming in basically to help Jordan get better, and
Yeah.
that's kind of weird that they would do that on there. But I mean, that just kind of shows you like I guess the respect that they had. Like, I want to play with Jordan in the summer. Why wouldn't I do that?
Hmm.
But it's definitely interesting to see that stuff now.
Yeah, because he took that and he, won 3 more championships against those people that he was practicing with. So, that's just a wild little like thing to think about that they kind of helped him get to, back to where he was, and then they kind of, gave him the next 3 years. So that's pretty crazy to think about. But the Space Jam thing, like, I had that weird moment where I was like, watching them, that little clip of them with like, or him like playing basketball with all the green screen like people, and like just thinking about like the movie and then thinking about that, I was like, the fact that like the technology back then was like good enough to do something like that was just crazy to me because like I don't know, I was just like trying to figure that all out, and that was like really interesting, even though it was a couple seconds like on the on the thing. And I don't know, it's just a cool little thing that they.
When you think about it, honestly, that was probably like one of the worst experiences when it comes to filming, especially if like it's your first movie where it's
Yeah,
nothing but green screen. So you're literally the only person out there acting. Like, I know they had, scenes like Bill Murray and Larry
yeah.
Bird and everything, but other than that, you're just green screen the whole time. It's just like,
Hmm.
that's probably not as fun.
Yeah, because like you're basically acting with yourself and you have to like visualize everything. And then on the flip side, when he's not filming the movie, he's, practicing to get back to, the league. And it's just like, I mean, he probably didn't sleep for a good couple months there, like because of all that. So that's just like, it just shows what went into it and what kind of like a person he is. It just shocked me, you know what I mean?
This is very random, but I'll just mention it. I don't know if you know already, but the website for the movie Space Jam is still live on the internet.
Really?
The
Damn.
website from 1996 is still intact, the way it was in '96, and it's still live. You can still go to it. I
SpaceJam.com?
just I don't know if it's spacejam.com. I mean, if you Google Space Jam website, I'm pretty sure it'll pop up on there, and you'll see it's in all its glory. It is the
Huh.
same thing that
Oh
was
wow,
back
look at
there.
that.
Yeah, it's spacejam.com. Yep.
So I go to spacejam.com, and for those that aren't going to it right now, basically it's got a bunch of stars in the background. I mean, very, very 90s, very telling for the time. And then it's just a Space Jam logo, and then you can tell that this was like, like the screens were smaller back then because this is just, you can click around on these different like, planets and
The sight
basketballs.
map. Oh man,
This is
planets.
something
Site
else.
map. There you go. That's how
Wow.
old it is.
Let's go to the
But
Warner
you know how
store.
long it took someone to make this?
Oh, I know.
To make this in less than like 5, 10 minutes, probably.
Let's go to player bios. Let's see. What do they say about Michael Jordan? Oh, it doesn't say. It doesn't
Stellar
say
souvenirs.
the lineup. Let's see the lineup. This is actually pretty awesome. I didn't even know this existed.
Unfortunately, this only works on Macintosh running Netscape. Sorry, Windows users.
Wait, which
Yeah,
one?
Netscape Navigator.
Wait, which one?
Throwback.
Which one did we clip?
When
Which
I
one?
go to souvenirs,
Let's see. Stellar souvenirs.
I'll mention as well for anyone that's listening. I would definitely just Google Space Jam Deadspin because there's a really good article that's still up just about the box score for the game, the Monstars versus the Toon Squad. It's a really good article about it. I would recommend that.
Huh. Look at these posters, dude.
by the way, this week we got another all time probably meme of Michael Jordan laughing
Oh, dude.
on a tablet.
Oh, laughing at Gary
And
Payton, yeah, talking about shutting him
and
down.
then
That was very good.
and then someone edited LeBron saying he's the best of all time, and Michael Jordan reacting to it.
Oh
It's
yeah, it's
probably my
perfect
favorite
meme
GIF on the
quality on
internet.
there. Yeah, the director, he tweeted that out probably like 8 hours before the show happened, and it was just a picture of him laughing. I was just like, okay, I wonder what this is from. And as soon as it came, it was just like, okay, very good moment.
Like not even like the documentary was still going on, and someone already made an edit.
Yeah. I mean, that might go up with what's it called? The crying Jordan meme. Like that might be a thing that lives on forever because I mean that could be used in different scenarios.
Literally, like even wrestling, like anything in wrestling, you could just throw that on there.
The one thing about this documentary I'm happy about is that the people who only know Jordan from the memes and like the crying Jordan, they're getting to see who the guy was, who the player was. So I'm happy about that.
And
Michael
the
Jordan
other,
is pretty much writing his own history because, like, when people like search on Michael Jordan has edited himself into like I am the greatest ever with this doc, pretty much.
mhm.
Right.
Like, there's the because like people are not gonna like go in depth. They're gonna be like, oh, this ESPN Last Dance documentary. Let's watch this, and like, holy shit, Jordan's like the best ever now.
And the other thing was like a lot of people were saying before this even started that a lot of people are going to go into this and come out with it like hating Michael Jordan, and I
I
think
don't
that's the
understand.
total opposite. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I'm
like
like
him more
loving Jordan
now.
even more.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know if there's something that like in these last two episodes that's going to be huge that like everyone's going to be, but I like even that like there's nothing that you can. I don't think there's anything that they can say that I'd be like, oh, I don't like this guy anymore. I like him even more now.
No.
Maybe
So
because like he was like such like a dick to his play, like the teammates, but like he's so driven to win that you understand why he's doing what he's doing.
yeah,
Like it makes sense. Maybe he's like, oh my god, people are gonna hate me because I was like so mean to everybody. I just wanted to win, and people
and
are like pretty much miserable, like playing with him. Probably like, oh my god, we gotta go deal with Jordan today. You know what I mean?
like you need those people on your team because like he's like the guy where like I know Bryce Harper is like this where he says like the like participation trophies in Little League like are pointless because what do they do like oh you get a trophy because you participated like no you want to win and you need people like that on your team to you know push you to be better. And obviously Michael Jordan was the best at that because he turned into the greatest basketball player of all time. And yeah, I mean it's just crazy. Um, and another thing, this isn't my comment, but it makes sense. This is from the Barstool Chicago guys are talking about this. Basically, the okay, so if you go down the list of Chicago sports, the Bears were one of like the first teams. The Blackhawks were original six. The Cubs and White Sox were one of like the first teams in baseball. The Bulls were just the Bulls until Michael Jordan came along. And without Michael Jordan, the Bulls might still just be the Bulls. Like they're not
Pretty
like
much. Without Michael Jordan, like NBA players wouldn't be making as much as they do.
well yeah, I mean like Michael Jordan changed not only like, well he changed like basically like Chicago and basketball and the Chicago Bulls because like without him coming to Chicago, like what if he went somewhere else? Like he would have maybe it wouldn't have been as big if he went somewhere else. You know what I mean? Like it's like a million different questions of like what ifs, but it's just something to think about. It's crazy.
Basketball was still big in Chicago. I mean, they got plenty of people that kind of came out of that area. That's really good. But as far as like the professional sports, and especially like the Bulls themselves, yeah, he took them. He even mentioned in the documentary, he said that when we first came in here, we were shit, and then we turned into this world class organization. And of
Hmm.
course, he didn't want any players that came in there to not appreciate that and understand, exactly what they're playing for. So, yeah, I mean, he definitely took it from the mud, and then he like rose it up for everyone to see for sure.
So that the end of the documentary of the episode 8 of him winning the championship on Father's Day
Oh,
and like
dude.
Yeah,
very
that's
emotional.
classic. Super classic. I remember watching that. My mother's favorite team was the Sonics, and she was kind of heartbroken that they won, especially because they kind of came back. They had a little mini comeback there. They were down 0-3 and then won two straight. But then like that absolute that scene with him winning that championship at home, finally coming back, and then seeing him like on the trainer floor and everything. And I've only seen those pictures and seen those videos. I've never heard audio from it. So to hear him
Hmm.
actually crying on that was surreal.
That
Which
was
like also shows like how much like Michael Jordan can't even like cry with like without cameras being in front of him, you know? Like he can't even have like a moment like himself for like a second.
Right,
Like we were talking about last week, how like it's just nonstop.
for sure. But at that point, I don't think he cared honestly.
That's true. Oh,
72 and
I
10.
read
And,
one
yeah.
conspiracy theory. Did Michael Jordan throw two games to win on Father's Day?
I don't think so. I don't think I don't think he would ever throw a game honestly
But you know what I mean?
because there
Like it seems
there
so
were no
perfect.
sweeps in the NBA finals. Like I mean there
Yeah.
was, but They had never done that, and like the last time it happened was like years and years and years and years ago. So for him to be able to get that, I'm pretty sure that was probably like a challenge for him for sure.
Gotcha. So that's pretty much it,
Lakers got,
Mike.
Lakers got that a
Mike,
couple years ago. We're just saying.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited for the next 2 episodes, and that's
the
all.
grand finale.
Mm-hmm.
Have you guys watched the first episode of The Last Ride?
I did.
Yeah, we did.
So I'm only asking this during this because I haven't seen it, but I saw a commercial, and one of the publications was said like wrestling's version of The Last Dance. Is it on the quality of The Last Dance?
It's kind of documenting Undertaker from like WrestleMania 33. It's kind of like if the wrestler. This documentary is gonna be like if the wrestler was real.
So in his twilight, after his twilight, it's going from there.
Yeah, pretty much. Like
they film starting in 2017, and then it goes till present day, pretty much. But literally, like the one thing that I kept thinking of was, no, obviously they've been filming this for a long time, but it seems like WWE watched the Last Dance, and they were like, "Oh, we have that footage with Undertaker. Let's go do this, but with us." And I feel like if you're just like in the wrestling world and you didn't watch this, then like it would be like The Last Dance, but for the WWE essentially.
But they kind of fast forwarded like he pretty much summed his whole career in like one episode. They're not doing flashback, flash forward, really.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, because after this episode, it's like straight up like what happens after WrestleMania 33, and so on and so forth.
It's a good watch. I definitely highly recommend it because it's just like the behind the scenes footage and everything. It's like the best part.
Well, I'll check it out. But I highly recommend The Last Dance.
I was gonna say this is pretty much like if Jordan did one episode of his whole career, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, we're gonna show when he was on the Wizards.
Yeah, that doesn't sound good at all. But I mean, their production is good, so I'll definitely check it out.
Well,
I was just curious because they made that comparison. I'm like, okay, hold your horses now.
I'll say this: the end of the first episode, it made me mad that Taker didn't retire after that match with Roman. So,
wrestlers don't retire.
Yeah, well, it is what it is. But all right, well, next weekend, Sunday, last two.
Pay-per-view, we're there. We should do this just right after, dude. Just like live thoughts.
It's fine with me.
Sounds good.
Brandon wants to. All right, cool.
All right, talk to you again after a while.
Thanks, Brian.